Hi everyone, thank you. I'm sorry for the repetition for the guys that were just in my session. I did do a very quick high level for them. At the top here, you'll see two logos, one being Destined for Diversity and the other being Access. And two of the key challenges that I found working in organizations around inclusion are access into our world for young marginalized people or marginalized people in general. So that the supply and the demand don't meet. The employers are saying the talent isn't there, the talent is saying the employers aren't hiring, and in actual fact, both sides are there, and what are we doing in the middle to bring them together? So we developed a course called, or a process called Access, and then the Destined for Diversity was, woke up in the middle of the night thinking, Ucademy, we're destined to bring about diversity. So there we go, that was how that happened. And I think we're changing lives. I'm not going to go through the details of all of that. That's just a little bit about Ucademy. As I said, it's a leading business process management training provider that's delivering qualifications in our space from EQF level 2 right through to 5. And as part of the earlier conversations, it's one of the things that attracts people into our world and retains them because they can gain a formal qualification integrated in the world of work and learning in context, and hopefully in an environment where we've provided some strong practices around accommodation and support and inclusion. That's just our range. We nationwide. Just on the diversity side, that's the only one you need to look at. We focus there on transformation, disability inclusion, gender inclusion, empowerment, youth access, and then we look at how do we strategically link organization strategy, whether it be employment equity, talent, BEE, or CSI related, to be able to leverage a centralized or integrated fund or pot for investment to do meaningful interventions in the organization. Usually you'll find the CSI department doing something and the HR department doing something and then the BEE guys doing something. And it's just a waste of leverage where you can have a broader impact. So I'm going to just get through to the actual project that we did. Just to give an indication of this was how we view development within WNS and Ucademy, is that you step in and we make sure that we close the gap with everything you need to set you up for success. Then where you start developing yourself to raise to another level, we put you through a process called Excel, and then once you're a top talent, then we take you through the journey to really level up and be able to progress or succeed through organization. And a similar type of model was used and implemented into the diversity program. So there we go. This has been published as a white paper. As I said earlier, collaboration and partnership was something I mentioned as my short answer. We knew we couldn't do this alone, and we assumed that we knew nothing. So we decided, who do we get involved into making this work for us? So we approached the UWC, University of Western Cape's Disability Unit. We approached Dr. Anna-Marie Lombard, a long-standing friend and associate who's done a lot of work in this space, and particularly because she's done a lot of work in the space of business process management organizations. And in terms of your sensory intelligence, your ability to manage the amount of stimulation you get in that kind of environment. So although people are looking to contact centers as a quick and easy place to create employment for disability, in very many instances, it's not the best fit at all, dependent on the nature of the disability. So, and then Dr. Anna-Marie Lombard referred us to the Tygerberg Hospitals unit, and we got some occupational therapists on board. We implemented psychometric testing, and then we got a network of medical practitioners that were recommended for specialists in the area so that our candidates could be properly assessed and diagnosed. Remember, I said that was key in the beginning when we spoke around this. We decided to be brave, Judy, brave and sometimes stupidly so, but brave, and we did a combination of all of the disabilities. So we had physical and I call them mental disabilities because that was what it was at that point in time. Your psychosocial, and it was a range. We had eyesight, we had hearing, we had bipolar, we had ADD, and then we had other physical disabilities. So it was a nice mix. And what was the biggest learning was how you can't use the label disability and then think that we've got everybody sorted right. Every single one of those people with their unique, I call it their unique ability, and their unique requirements needed to be accommodated in an environment that was really fast-paced and pressurized. and that wasn't really sensitized or mature enough at that point in time, I think, to know exactly what or how to do or the impact of the actions. So the Ucademy then was used to be instructionally designed a sensitization and support intervention. So all managers and peers within whose departments these candidates were placed were sensitized and taught around how to manage and accommodate and the impact. The delegates themselves were taught on what to expect in the organization in the form of people who possibly didn't understand and how to manage that and self-manage and build the resilience and the emotional intelligence or maturity to understand that the world sometimes is not against them because they're against them, but because they are ignorant. And how do we jointly create a space that changes that? So we essentially got a finance graduate, an HR graduate, a marketing graduate, just trying to remember exactly what they were, 2 marketing graduates, 2 HR graduates, an ICT graduate, and a finance graduate. Yeah, excuse my maths. Interesting enough, our data analytics, finance, IT kind of graduate had on the autistic scale, so it was interesting to hear earlier. And our others, what we realized after a significant recruitment drive was that most of the people in the BPO sector, most of the suitability of the professional fit was support services, because being on the operation floor for some might have been a fit, but the accommodation is just not there at the moment in all companies. I'm sure there are some companies that do that exceptionally well. We weren't yet at that point. So we took learners into the marketing department. We had exceptionally good feedback on the 18 months of nurturing of that young man who has since been employed in a marketing role. Our HR graduate was brilliant, and we employed her into the operation and then lost her because she was so great. So after a year, she was poached, which is phenomenal for us and great for her. Our IT finance graduate really flourished in the data analytics MI space. And then our one other candidate, I'm just trying to remember, they all did really well. 3 retained in our environment, 2 went to external jobs. And out of the 5, we had 1 challenging situation and 4 really great success stories. So it's a story of lessons learned. And I think the one challenging area we had was with a mental disability. And it was with the suspension of meds and the reaction that came from that, embedded into a little bit of a volatile, possibly non-supportive team. Because even in one organization, you'll have centers of support, non-support, understanding, inclusion, non-inclusion. It's not just between companies, it's even between areas. So a critical thing that we don't always think around when we think so much about accommodation is the individual taking accountability for their part in that process as well. Because if not, we do have a challenge. If there is a regime that has been prescribed or recommended and supported, if that's followed, your chances of success are much higher. If an individual at that level decides to opt out of that, then your options to support become quite limited. So I think there's a lot of pre-counseling that's required during counseling and after counseling, and I mean counseling around what it takes to succeed from both parties in this partnership for change. You learn a lot through the process as an employer. So I just want to lead the partners in the process, just to validate all of that. Century Intelligence, University of the Western Cape, Centre for Student Support Services at UWC. We actually had the rector of UWC come and sit at the graduation of our 5 candidates, which was phenomenal because it showed their commitment and their passion to the process. Then, of course, WNS, who's the employer, so they were actually the employer of choice in the program, and Ucademy being the training provider. And I think this was a small start, but what's evolved from this was an amazing model that we've been able to take into all areas for impact. So the public-private partnership, the educational university employer partnership, the linkage to company strategy, the linkage to the disability community and the professionals in it, that was all contributory to the successful outcome. I completely believe personally that if we'd attempted this in isolation of any one of those strategic players, we would have had a very different result. So moving forward now, we're looking at how do we further implement that level of partnership and collaboration for impact across youth employment, disability employment, gender, even the reskilling and upskilling for people that are threatened by automation, as well as people in their retirements that are no longer actually, many of us, able to afford what we would like to in our retirement and want to re-engage with the world of work. So those models I found were critical to the success of the project. The strategic intent really commenced in 2017 and 2018 was to embrace and foster diversity and inclusion. We wanted to show ourselves as a differentiator because we are socially responsible and we wanted to have a socioeconomic impact. And of course, in this world of BBBEE, that we drove that strategy with purpose and intent in a way that was innovative and unique, in that we pulled all the levers and drivers together across the business to have something that was worthwhile, even though it was for a very small number of people. And back to where I started earlier today, I would rather meaningfully and properly and in a quality way change 5 lives, which will have a significant ripple effect and multiplier effect and be able to scale from there than to attempt this large project, which sometimes doesn't necessarily have the impact because there's just too many factors to manage. I think from here you can build and scale. I always like to start small and scale. Start small, fail small, but go big. Some of the candidates' feedback. Disability program has simply been a dream come true from my day one. I have tremendous support from everyone around me, and the program is a gift from God. And I mean, that type of thing gives me lumps in my throat. I mean, whenever I present this, I have to make sure I don't cry. Every opportunity is meant for one to learn, grow, and make a positive impact. Failing to do these is the biggest mistake of all. And that makes me think of that comment somebody put up earlier around attitude is a bad attitude is mostly the problem. And thank you to WNS the Ucademy to do this for us. I'm yet to find a suitable English word that will describe how grateful I am for the opportunity. I did ask them for the Kosa word, but to capture it, I must capture it. So I think what is key, my last parting shot, is that don't underestimate the importance of the work before you employ them into an organization or a learning program. The fit for purpose must be there. The match to environment must be there. The understanding of the nature of the disability and the individual within that disability category is critical for them to succeed, to set people up for success. I don't mean it's a them and an us. I'm talking about a cohort of learners, right? And that goes across whether you're hiring young people or disabled people. Like, you need to know what your predictive success is. And that's where data comes in, guys. If you take a sophisticated, more technologically led learning solution where you've got predictive ability, predictive assessments that can say somebody with disability X and job Y match or don't match, or they're close to match, but these are the things you have to accommodate or develop or understand to close that gap. When you've got informed information, we didn't have that at the time. We have that now. And that's why you mustn't be scared to start and just do it, because you'll learn and then you'll innovate and then you'll grow. So it was a crazy, wonderful, exciting, exhilarating, fearful, sad, awesome experience on so many levels. And would love to share with any of you going forward our lessons learned, and would love to learn from you around how we can build your intelligence into our next iteration. Thanks.